Hey, everybody. Welcome to my very first radio show here on hamiltonradio.net called Living Your Best Life with DENNISH. I'm Annie, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour, along with Doc G, who is manning the post and the phone calls that come in during the show, but he will be talking with me back and forth. Today's topic is going to be life is a mindset, and everything begins with you. But before we start that, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself so you know who you're dealing with here. Um, I've lived through 2 marriages and 2 divorces. The first marriage lasted 20 years, the second 20 minutes, couple of narcissistic relationships, verbal and emotional abuse, domestic violence, and more importantly, I've just lived through breast cancer, which I'll be a 5-year survivor on February 21st. And I'm an author, published author, writer, ghostwriter, let me see, songwriter, and lyricist. So I have a lot going on. I have 2 books published. I have this book, Waking Up, Lessons Learned Through My Adventures with Life and Breast Cancer. And that's a whole series of short stories on parenting, relationships, positive feelings, thoughts, a whole bunch of stories. And it also includes my breast cancer journal with pictures of my journey through chemotherapy, radiation, to the very end of recovery. My last book, published about a year ago, is called My Collective Soul, Things I Know Without Knowing Why. You can find both books on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. And I guess you could say part of me too. I've been known to be called a psychic. I'm highly intuitive, and I'm also an empath. And for those of you that don't know what an empath is, some say it's a curse and a blessing. Um, for me, it's more of a blessing. It means you feel everybody else's pain. You can put yourself into someone else's shoes. You can walk into a room and with a bunch of people in it and feel a not so good vibe off of somebody. And more times than not, you're right about it. And I'm really grateful for being an empath because I think it's what allows me to connect with so many people through my social media pages and now through radio. Having said that, I want to thank Doc G, owner of HamiltonRadio.net, for allowing me this amazing forum that I'm so happy to be on. I have a great following on my Instagram and Facebook, but I like to connect with people a little bit more and get my word out. People ask me, what is it you're trying to do in the world? Well, I'm trying to make a difference in someone's life and hopefully in the world. And I believe that we can make a difference, and we can make that difference together. And I think the more we share our experiences and our stories and how we got through things, the more the world becomes a healed place. And let's face it, the world's a little crazy right now. Don't you think, Doc?
I do think that, yes. Hope everybody can hear me. Yeah, I do think that.
It's a little divided. There's so much divisions.
Oh, it is. It's crazy.
And
it's really crazy.
And sometimes I think it's the simplest things, being kind to one another, being open to one another, staying positive and upbeat in your life. I think that makes a big difference. And thank you again for letting me have this forum on your radio station. It's a great group of people who have shows on here. So tune in whenever you see HamiltonRadio.net with another person. There's some really great people. So having said that, I've just told you some of my experiences, and I've had people say, how did you get through all that? Terrible divorce, long divorce. I mean, a lot of not so good things happening. And my answer would be that I have one life to live. This is it. This is the big show. And I really choose to keep things as positive and to find a lesson in everything that life has handed me. Yes, divorce was hard, especially twice. Dealing with narcissistic people, difficult. Breast cancer, difficult. Abuse, very difficult. But that's the topic of the show today, that life is a mindset and it begins with you. And I decided a long time ago, I'm not letting it get me down. If life is handing me one situation after another, it better not be in vain. There has to be a reason why the world is doing this. And That's okay. Part of what I'm trying to do in my writing in my books is share all my private experiences. When I say my life is an open book, you better believe it is. There's really not much anyone doesn't know about me. I share my what it was like going through certain experiences, even parenting and divorce and relationships and true colors of people. And the mindset you start with is okay, I'm going to do something about this. I went through years of therapy. I had a phenomenal therapist who taught me a lot about myself. And after that, I've had years, for the last 10 years, a string of amazing spiritual teachers who have taught me a lot of things as well. And I think that's what's gotten me to where I am today. And that the most important thing when I say everything begins with you, it does. And that process starts when you get to know yourself better than anybody else you know. You can list your strengths, list your weaknesses, and love yourself for them. I mean, you got to embrace the good, the bad, the ugly, and the not so good. We're all a work in progress. And I think everything beginning with you, pick a day, pick a time, let it start with you. You know, I'm a big believer, and I've said it to friends, family, my kids, and trust me, my life isn't perfect. It's perfect for me today, one day at a time. But you have to make a decision. If someone hurts your feelings, okay, that's a bad thing. You feel some pain from that. But what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do? You know, I process things. They call me the 24-hour girl because it's true, Doc. I frustrated many of them that way because they're like, oh, you just don't get over something. No, I'm not going to just get over it. I'm going to think about it and think about it for at least 24 hours to find out why it bothered me and what was my hand in it. Did I allow it? Should I have used my voice to speak up? You know, it's a funny thing. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, one of my spiritual friends had said to me that tumor in your breast is all the things you never said to anybody. It's all the moments you felt like a doormat. And she was right. And at the time, I thought it's cancer. I mean, for those of you who've been through it, it's really quite an experience to be told you have cancer. But for me, I decided no matter what, I wasn't going to die from it. I was going to muddle through. And I was going to use my voice and I was going to let it do something positive for me. And I made a deal with my cancer, silly as it may sound to some, that you don't bother me. I won't bother you. We'll get through this together. I'm going to love you through. Be as kind to me as you can. And cancer said back to me, it's a deal. And when this is all over, you're going to take that experience and do something for the world. And some people think that's a little crazy, but that's how I chose to get through my cancer. Chemo healed the cancer healed me. And you know what? It doesn't have to just be cancer in your life. It could be anything in your life. We all have a choice for everything. People sometimes think, I don't have a choice. I have to stay in that job. I don't have a choice. I have to stay in that relationship. We all have a choice. And the choices, the best choices we can make for ourselves are the ones we learn through knowing ourselves and realizing that everything does come from us. And Doc, you can chime in anytime you'd like over there.
Oh yeah, I'm just sharing everything. I will chime in, I promise.
So yeah, you know, and I also wanted to invite any of you watching here today, please feel free to call in with comments, an opinion, a question, anything. We'd love to hear from you. I am a little nervous today. This is something I have wanted to do for a very long time, is to have an opportunity to do something on a bigger scale than just my social media and my books. And I have to say, in getting back to the mindset, I want to tell you how I got to this radio station. A few weeks ago, I was asked to be on the Jersey Shore Angel show by my friend Maureen, who is the Jersey Shore Angel. And she had myself and a couple authors on there. And I thought, okay, you know, I don't know much about this radio, but I did radio my first year of college. And that, without dating myself, I was wearing clunky headset, spinning vinyls, and queuing them up by hand. I've loved radio ever since. And, I was on the drive down here to Hamilton Radio and, thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not leaving there until I have a time slot. I'm just not doing it. My mindset was I'm going to go do the interview with Maureen, and I'm not leaving that studio. I might have to stay there till 6 o'clock at night, but I'm leaving with a time slot. And sure enough, after the show was over, I went up to Doc. I said, "Let me ask you, you had a time slot?" He goes, "What do you want?" So that's my whole feeling of the mindset. The more you know yourself, the more you can kind of manifest, if you will, what you want. You have to believe in yourself like no one's business. You really have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in your dreams. It's a given. So my mindset it was, I'm coming home with my own radio show, and here we are, the first day in, and who knew? Who knew? It's really, yeah, it is, Doc. It's very exciting. It's another adventure and dream come true to have this kind of forum and be part of a really good group of people. And Doc and I were just talking before the show. He was trying to calm my nerves a little, and we were talking about knowing ourselves and that everything begins with you. And part of that is also the more you know yourself, the more aware you become of the people you're surrounding yourself with. So you're not being judgmental if somebody, doesn't mesh with you. That's not judgmental to say they just don't fit into my positive tribe of people. And that's all it is. I used an analogy before that life is a bubble. So if you can imagine a bubble with yourself standing in the center and say you have 10 chairs. 5 chairs are really high energy, positive people, and 5 people are not. And you keep saying to yourself, well, the 5 negative, they're already in those chairs. Hopefully more positive ones will come in. They're not. You need an empty chair. You need an empty chair for them. And that's the basis of all that. And that's why I try to say it's important to know yourself. And it really is important to love yourself, because I tell so many people that will say something like, oh, this relationship, that friendship, this and that. I'm like, well, how do you expect somebody to be hopelessly in love with you when you can't do that for yourself? You can't ask somebody else to do the work that you can't do for yourself. And we were all raised, and I'm sure you were too, Doc, in a time that it's selfish to put yourself first. You don't do that. It's selfish. It's not selfish. It's selfless. And I think you have to learn to be selfless. Happy life, happy wife. If mommy ain't happy, the kids ain't happy. It's true. So I'm not saying you can't have a down day. Believe me, you can ask. I have 5 children. My 2 youngest live home, but you can ask them that if I'm not in a good mood, it's certainly not a good thing. And it works with them too. If they're in a really cranky mood, well, I always say, well, then what did you expect me to be like by the end of the day? I've put up with everybody's foul mood all day long. It's hard. Don't you find, Doc, it's hard sometimes if you're in a mix of too much negativity, it's hard to stay as positive.
It's always hard for me because, yeah, I can attest to that because my family is always depressed. They're always upset. And even though there's a couple things that started out positive, the whole day, if I learned a long time ago, if you start out the day positive, you just said it, if you start out the day positive, most of the day will stay positive. At least part of the day, at least your day might stay positive. But if you start out at negative, that's just not a good way to start a day.
No, it never is. In fact, I try to tell people, and I try to remember to do it every morning. The minute I open my eyes, before my feet hit the floor, I just say in my head, and you can say it out loud, I'm grateful because I've just been handed the gift of another day. And not everybody, you see all these things on social media, and I'm like, does everybody really pay attention when they say no day is promised and love the people you're with? Do they pay attention to it, or they just share it out because it looks good?
Right.
And gratitude is a big part of the day, and I don't know. I think you can only try with the negative people and hope that your energy kind of covers them. But like I said, for people that are very negative, it begins with them too. That's their choice to be negative. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning last night. I think I tossed and turned for 2 or 3 hours. I was worried about everything under the sun. I was worried about the radio station coming down here today. I was worried about um, something else I'm doing in my life. I was all night long, and I'm thinking, what happened to me? Because worry does nothing but just keeps you awake all night, gets your anxiety going, and it's going to do nothing. And I got up this morning, and the world seemed a little different. A lot of good things happened this morning. I'm here feeling a little less nervous and thinking I'm so grateful. The whole car drive down here, I just was sitting there going, I am so grateful that God and the universe handed me this forum, this radio station, and I believe everything happens as it should, when it should, and how it should. Because sometimes we're in a rush for, we need this to happen now. We need this to happen tomorrow. This has to happen by the weekend, and it's learning to trust the guy upstairs, trust the universe that it comes to you when it's meant to come to you, and that's how I feel about that. Um, the thinking about yourself, so many people, and I've had friends that'll say, I don't know how you do this, you don't do this, I don't know how you're standing so strong. And I'm like, well, because I chose to stand strong. And I'm actually standing much stronger than when I was in an abusive relationship or a bad marriage. I'm always standing much stronger. And it's something I try to teach to my children that, life is what you're going to make it. It's okay to feel sad, okay to have a down day. I have a story in one of my books that it's called, you're invited to my pity party. And believe me, that's the party no one wants to go to. There's no goodie bags to come home with. There is, in fact, I find most people don't want to go to my pity party. And I say it's okay if you don't have one all the time, and get your martini glass, fill it up with tears, and be done with it. Sometimes life hands us those down days to teach us something about ourselves. And I think there's a lesson in everything. And Doc and I were just talking about this before, about certain situations going, but what is the lesson? And when am I going to learn the lesson? And neither of us could answer that question, by the way. We tried. And like I said to Doc, I have that sometimes myself now, that the answer, the right and wrong, but for whatever reason, you're kind of stuck in that period. And my feeling is, I'm not really sure if any of us are really stuck. I think we're just being kept somewhere until the next step comes along and the life lesson is shown to us. And, my book, this one here, Waking Up, on my last day of radiation, the nurse asked me, what did you learn from this whole experience? Because you're done, you're free and clear, no more cancer, but I said, you know what? A cancer woke me up. It was a waking up moment. And I thought, oh my gosh, how many of those do we have in a lifetime? Not consistently, not every day, but we always find there's that one morning that you get up and life is different. Something's changed, an answer comes through, an opportunity. And I realized that with cancer, it was my waking up moment. My divorces were waking up moments. Getting out of bad relationships were waking up moments. I have a little bit of an empty nest going on with my 3 oldest living across the country. That was a waking up moment. I think life is filled with them. I think sometimes we all get a little lost along the journey. And my feeling about that is that sometimes the more lost we feel, that's actually the time we're finding ourselves and we're finding our better self. And life is a series of moving forward and change and stepping out of the box and doing something different and loving ourselves. We're all going to make mistakes. So what? Everybody's human. You can't not have that. But I think that's where the mindset and life is such a crazy mindset. I can put a little humor into this to tell you that I didn't cry a lot during cancer. I always say maybe I could count on one hand when I cried. The day I got diagnosed, absolutely, because I was by myself and the doctor said, you can come into my office. Do you have someone to drive you home? Which I did not. But I realized through that time it's important to find your funny. And there's the first story in Waking Up is called First and Foremost, Find Your Funny. Now, you can't always find it sometimes at the specific moment, but trust me, if you've got an open mind and you want to change your mindset, you can. So the funny story is, I had been in my second chemo treatment. They had told me, your hair is going to start falling out. Well, for me, you got to be kidding me. I had the perfect color, highlights, hairstyle, length is perfect. So you were taking away one of the biggest things I loved about myself, my hair. So I woke up one morning and the strands were coming out here and there. And I thought, you know what? Forget this. I'm going back to bed. I'm just going to lay in bed, wallow in this. I know what's happening. I knew it was coming. Well, later that afternoon, I decided to get out of bed, Ron.
You can complete. You got a phone call.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want me to finish this first?
Yeah, but I got to take the call because we'll lose it.
Oh, go ahead.
So I'll take the call. Just let them know you're finishing your story. And
Okay, caller, I'll be right with you. Anyway, the funny part of the story is that afternoon, I had to drive my son Noah to the local track down the street where he raced fixed gear bikes. And as we were driving down the road, Noah's going, "Did you leave the car windows open?" I mean, we had the windows down in the car. I said, "No." He said, "Okay." Next thing he said, "Are you sure you didn't? There's spider webs everywhere in the car." I looked over at him, saw his face, and his mouth go wide open, go, "Oh my gosh, it's your hair." And I thought I could not help but laugh. Spider webs? No, it was not Charlotte's web. It was Annie's web. So you see, it's a mindset. So hello, caller. Who do we have? They hung up? Oh, caller, call back.
that's why I said, yeah, when you answer, I picked up, but you could hear them, and then they hung up. So
Okay, they'll call back. So that's the mindset story. It was a bad day that turned into, it's here, it's happening. It's like the worry thing. I was stressing a little. I know it's going to fall out, the hair is going to come out, but the worry didn't prevent it from coming out. It came and went. I always tell people I had a sassy little wig I wore that I loved, and the rest is history with that. Doc?
Yes.
So what do you have to say? When have you had a funny incident out of something not so funny? How long does it take you to find your funny?
Me, I don't know. It's just you caught me off guard there.
That's my job here.
I know. Actually, I do that for other people. No, but the funny thing is how everybody wants to be almost perfect, and yet nobody is. And that really kind of gets me going because, I think you're like almost perfect because you're an empath, you're
Thank you.
motivational speaker, you're a writer, you're this, you're that, you're everything. And yet you're to yourself, you're not. So we're everything we are to ourselves or to other people, but when we look inside ourselves, we're really not. We're just people that have baggage, problems, relationship issues.
It's true.
And unless we talk about it, nobody knows.
Well, communication is key for anything. I'm a big believer in that. Those that know me or closest know. That was my biggest fear today. Can I actually talk for an hour? And my close friends and family, yes, you can.
Already talked about it in a half hour already.
There you go.
See?
There you go.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. But in talking about, you and I were talking about it before, about everything begins with you and it's a mindset. I look at my life and who I've become, the type of mom I am, the type of person I am. I've heard people, if there's somebody I come across that's, a little jittery, nervous, rough around the edges, I'll say, gosh. And, someone will say, well, that's their mother was like that. Their father was like that. And I think, but you have a choice not to be that way. We could say things about everybody we grew up with, but you have a choice. You don't have to be like anybody else. You can be yourself. I don't believe your childhood dictates who you become as an adult. Sometimes I think, whatever went on in your child you can take that to task, learn from it, grow stronger from it, and be the best part of yourself that you can be, and I'm a big believer that I hear people like, oh, this happened, that happened, and I know people that way more has happened to them than has happened to me. And it's like, my gosh, do you just look around? You have a choice. You know, do you want to be miserable? I usually shut myself and stay quiet if I'm having a bad day. I don't like to put that on anybody else. I just kind of retreat because my closest will tell you, oh no, she's quiet. I'll be told I talk too much, which will drive them crazy.
Yeah.
But yet when I don't talk, that makes that they all get edgy. It's like, oh gosh, you're not talking. And I'm like, oh, sometimes I don't want to talk. Sometimes there's just, you have to just stop yourself, you know. But part of what I want to do with this show, and I appreciate you allowing me to do this, is just try to make people feel less alone. You know, when I was in my first marriage, the things that were going on, I never told anybody. It was not anything you did. And I always thought, who would have believed me anyway? And I've learned since that experience, if I had had one person that I could have really told it to help me through, it might have gone a little bit differently. It might have not been as long as a recovery from it or anything like that. So part of what I'm trying to do is, if one person says to me on my social media page, gosh, I just went through that situation that you wrote about, or oh, you made my day, or I'm changing my life because of how the things you say, my job is done. You know, that's my life purpose right
Why
now.
you went through it for them.
See, and you're right, because I think that's why we all do. And that's where the knowing yourself, and it begins with you. I could have said, yeah, forget it. You know, this is as good as it gets. And, you know, I'm just going to finish my life till the last day of it and not do anything. But here I am at my age, still writing books, still doing the things I'm doing. I will not give up on, you know, this dream. And I will never give up on dreams. I don't think anybody should give up on their dreams. I think that's what makes us who we are. And you and I talked about that too. You've got the dreamer side in you.
Always. The Gemini in me, the Gemini in me won't let go. See, that's the other issue. I'm always creative, always thinking, and I'm always trying to stay positive. And when you're around a person like that, if you're not of the same ilk or mindset, you actually feel less of a person. And I don't want anybody to feel less of a person. I want you to join me.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to join me on the journey to where we can create together.
That's a great way to put it. I like that. Join on the journey.
Right? It is a journey.
Life is a journey. I write that all the time, that it's a journey.
And there's no reason why that none of us, like I said, none of us can be successful. We can all be successful together. It's hard to be successful as one person. I've seen that years ago. It's really hard. And then when we just talked about people, they only want you as successful as just a little bit less than they are.
In their comfort zone. That's their comfort zone, not yours.
They want you to be successful. They want you to be successful. That's what they say. Oh, I want you to be successful, but just not as successful as I am. That's wrong.
Yeah, and I guess you could almost say it's a control, it's a fear, it's an insecurity, it's a jealousy.
Afraid you're going to take over their spot.
Yeah, and this is what I'm trying to do as well, is to say to people, we can make a difference in each other's lives, and a positive difference. And you know what? If somebody gets really successful and more successful than the other one and takes off and leaves and forgets about that person, then that tells you a lot who the person was to begin with.
Right.
I don't think success changes anybody that massively unless the person lets them. You know, I think success, you know, people talking it in terms of being famous. And to me, success is living your life's purpose. Failure is not believing in yourself enough to do it. And I've written about that before too, that, you know, it's ironic that some people, we talked a little bit earlier about people, it's like there's a road of success and everybody stops at the stop sign and the yield, but they don't go past it because it's like, oh no, you see that big success light at the end, can't get there. This is it. It's as if somebody turned the red light on for you and left it on.
Right.
There was no other light to go through. That's what happens. You know, I'm always happy to hear a success story. I'm thrilled for people that, you know, we've talked about my nephew. My nephew has a series of stores all over the country called Round 2. And I look at this kid. He's the biggest dreamer known to man, and there isn't any dream he hasn't achieved. And as his aunt, I love
It's amazing.
watching.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
amazing.
watching what he's done, and I like to think he got a little of that from his aunt. You never know. I mean, I grew up being told, you're a dreamer, and dreamers head in the clouds, flighty
In
people.
school like that too. Yeah, I was told all the time, why are you, looking out the window and I didn't get school. School to me was, I wanted to work with my hands. So I went into a trade of automotive technician,
Okay.
and I did that for 25 years. But I was always like that. I was always a hands-on person. I've never was, I think, but I'm not I just don't, I couldn't get the concept of school. And when I told my daughters that, they said, Dad, really? I said, yeah. I said, because I don't expect anything out of you other than what you want to put into it. I want you to think about what you do, and I want you to do what they want you to do, but I want you to think about, you don't have to bring home an A. You don't have to bring home a B. As long as you're comfortable with whatever you do
Right.
and you pass, that's all that matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't believe in putting pressure on kids, because that's what my parents did to me.
Mine
And
too.
it
Mine
pushed
too.
me down. It pushed me down a lot. And also, when I was younger, I had some high grades, which actually I got bullied about.
You,
And
could,
then
you couldn't win for
so
trying.
you can't win. So you just, okay, fine, I'll get C's and D's. I don't care. And you don't have to be anybody of intelligence anymore in today's world. You just have to have the knowledge to do what you want to do, read and understand what you're looking at, and then go accomplish that goal. That's it.
Isn't it amazing how we allow the opinions of other people
Oh, yeah.
to influence our life? I look at it took me a million years and to realize that people. That's why even with my own children, I tried never to. You want to be an astronaut? Go right ahead. I'm right behind you. Whatever they wanted to do, and I'd like to think I raised them all to be who they want to be. I mean, my two that live at home, the two coolest kids, I can tell you. They're their own people, and they're not afraid to be who they are. And I take so much pride in that. I respect them.
Yeah.
They're 17 and 21, and I just to think that they're that secure in who they are, they could care less what other people think, because you know what? The right people love them. The right friends love them. They don't see anything different about them, or, oh, look what he's wearing, or, oh, my youngest bleached his hair. Friends love it, and I said, but look at us as adults. It took us a long time
Yeah.
to learn that. And for me, I told you the quote I wrote: a dreamer is a realist with faith, and that's faith in yourself and in your dream. You got to believe. I get so sad when I see people. I'm like, well, I'd love to do this, but no, this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
can't do that. I'm not that girl. Not that girl. I want to get out of the box as often as I can, shoot for the moon. It's like when with the songs I wrote, which I'm going to play, Doc's going to play at the end. It's a song called The Dreamer.
Beautiful song. Beautiful song.
Thank you. I've became a lyricist out of nowhere. I mean, I wrote a poem. I needed a book trailer song for waking up. So I wrote a poem, which is lyrics, and was referred to Sutton Thomas, who's a local musician. So he wrote a song. And next thing I knew, I was writing all these song lyrics, and they matched the book, Waking Up. There's Dear Children, The Dreamer, The Truth Seeker. What Now is my breast cancer song. But The Dreamer resonates a lot with me, and Doc is going to play it at the end of the show today. But my point is, I never thought, I tell people sometimes the exact dream you want is not going to happen the way you want. For me to be in a studio singing back up in The Dreamer was like, how did I get, what is this? This is so cool. I never thought I could do it. And it was a really cool experience till it ended, and it ended kind of abruptly. But the point is, I did something I didn't think I could do. So one dream of really working on getting Waking Up out to the public turned into a CD of songs called Waking Up, and going out in public and performing, and taking it on the road was really exciting. And so I tell people, you just, I wish everybody would wake up in the morning and have faith in themselves and where the day is going to take them. Every day is filled with endless possibilities, and each new day is a new one with no mistakes in it yet. And nothing is really a mistake. Things happen for whatever reason, but I go back to again, life is a mindset. And yeah, there are things that can make your mind not in the best place. Sure, there's tragedies in the world that happen, but you know, I guess what I want to say to everybody is this is it. This is we get one show, which is your life. And I'm getting up there in age, which I'm not going to express today how old I am, but I appreciate life a lot more. And it's like there's only so much time left. I want to finish writing the books I want to write. I want to do this radio show for as long as I can do it. I want to do public speaking. I want to go on a stage and be up close and personal with anybody who needs a shoulder to cry on, a person to listen, someone to ask a question to. I don't want the world to feel alone. I mean, I'm one person, but that's what's great with the radio. I'm one person trying to do it on my own on my social media pages. Now I'm doing it with Doc G and everybody else on HamiltonRadio.net. That's what we're doing. I mean, I'll give you this. The group of people on here are so phenomenal. The messages, I think we're all the same. Everybody is positive and out there trying to save the world and make it a better place. And I think it's really awesome that where this even came from for me, that Maureen out of the blue, message, can you be on my show? I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I can. I'm not doing anything that day. And, and it was great authors on that panel that day. And even that whole panel of us, everybody had the same message. And it's very good to find like-minded people. I think that's the key. You're talking about being a Gemini, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Pisces, so.
So you're like my daughters.
That's
my daughters are both Pisces.
Oh, it's the mother lode. It's the hope. I call it the hopeful romantic, the creative, a little pain is good. Anguish, gets the words. It writes the stories. It writes the music. I just saw an interview with Pink yesterday. She was on the Ellen show, and I saw it. And she said, you have to have a sad day. You have to have, something happen to you to be able to write the stuff that makes a difference to people. Yeah. And I think that's true. And, when you're creative, the people around us that aren't creative, we're hard to understand, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I do. I also think that what you said there is actually, if you don't have sad days, you never have the idea of what a good day is. Because if you have good days all the time, which is nice, you never have that up and down. And we have to have that balance. Everything's balanced in life.
That's how you learn that everything begins with you, by having the up and down days. I don't mind them. I won't sit in them. I try not to sit in them for too long. Right. But I couldn't imagine going off skipping every day through life.
Doesn't work that way.
And I always say, it's nice to know happy. You wouldn't know happy. And I always say joy is the elevated state of happiness, because to find a moment of true joy, this past summer, my oldest was in from LA, and I had 3 of my boys together. And we all went out to dinner, and my gosh, just to see them all interacting. And I thought, there's that elevated state of happiness. It was such a joy to watch them. And I'm almost appreciative you don't have that joy like that every day, because you would take it for granted.
What I'm talking about. Right,
you would take it for granted. And I think that's part of this whole movement with Everything Begins for You. You can't take the people in your life for granted. You can't. And you have to. A friend years ago said flaws are flavorful. And it's how you look at them, because you show me a perfect person, I don't know very many. They might think they are, but I don't like perfect people. I like the people with the flaws in them. It's what makes them who they are. I mean, I can give you the list that my nearest and dearest will tell you with me. You're like, you this, you that. You always say this one phrase all the time, but they'll also say, but that's why we love you, because it's you. That's who you are. So I think it's a good thing, But I'm here to tell everybody today, Don't let anybody stop you. We spend so much time loving the people in our life and paying so much attention to the people in our life that we forget to do the same for ourselves. We forget that we need a time out once in a while, that we need to find our balance and just sit in stillness. And it's okay to put yourself first. If you're having a day where you're exhausted, so you don't do any work in the house or you don't do something, that's taking care of yourself. And that's physically, the mindset, you're tired, you're sick, you've got too much on your plate. That all affects your mindset as well. I mean, don't you ever find that you get a little crazy here with this project and that? And what are you feeling by the end of it? You're like,
drained. I'm
yeah.
drained. But
Yeah.
I still find that, to push through. You got to push through it and just say, you know what, I'm doing this for a reason. This is for, other people. This is for dreams and goals, because I'm always showing people, again, what you said, you're showing people how to break through the failures in life. You're showing people how to break the pratfalls, and you're just coming through it, and you're shining and you're smiling and you're saying, you know what, I did it, you can do it, come on, join us.
Exactly. It's, it is. And I think that's great. I think, people make everything so complicated.
Yeah, we do.
Everybody.
As a person, we do.
We
really.
do. And it's not as complicated. Life really, it shouldn't be, and it isn't. It's people we mesh with sometimes that help it along, feeling a little complicated more than it should. But I think it's just, we need to get back to the basics in this world. We need to get back to being kind, looking out for one another. And, like you say that quote all the time, if you can't be kind, be quiet.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
And it's true. It's true. And I think sometimes it's like the snowball effect. We get one thought in our head, and then that thought keeps going, and then another one comes in, another one comes in. I think that's, even for myself, I have that. I had it last night, like I shared with everybody. But it's the mindset. You got to pull yourself back. And even if you didn't have the best day ever, when I go to bed at night, I always am grateful that I went through the day, and I'm like, you know what? I did the best I could today. Now, tomorrow, I might go out and, tear through the world with something phenomenal. But for today, I got through. And I always tell people that on my social media pages, stop beating yourself up. Did you have a bad day? Did you cry? Did you not get your to-do list done? So what? So what? You need to be good to yourself. And that's the mindset too, that, you know what, you're doing okay. Give yourself credit. You got through another day.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, it's not really always that easy to get through another day and to get through it well and in one piece.
That's true. You said about how you broke through, and how you, when you came in here and you asked for a show. I had another guy do that. His name is Troy Alexander, really great guy, and he said to me at the end of the show, he said, I already had the mindset when I walked in, because he's a motivational speaker as well, to come in and ask for a show. And he said, I wasn't leaving there unless I got a show. And you know what? He got a show. And he's just a great guy. He's a photographer. He's does something in a church. And he said to me, watch, by the end of the year or before the end of the year, I will have a TV show. He is now on the brinks of getting his own TV show. But that's the way he thinks, and most people don't think that way. They already know, like we said, the timeline. We already know what we want.
Mm-hmm.
We turn that want into a dream. The dream turns into a goal,
right.
And that idea that we had becomes present. And
Exactly.
That's the timeline we're living in. So we're just living in that timeline we want all along.
It's true. Well, look at it this way.
A great example.
What do you have to lose by being positive?
I tell that to people
There's
all the
nothing
time.
to lose.
I tell it to people all the time.
It doesn't take a lot of work. Yeah, maybe some days it's a little harder than others, but say to yourself, okay, this is what I want. I mean, I can sit here and tell you part of my bucket list is I want to meet Oprah and be on.
It may happen.
Well, I'm still hanging on to that. I don't give that up. People are like, oh, are you crazy? I'm like, no, look at some of these people out here. It's one opportunity. You only need one door to open, fully open for you to get you through, because I always go through life saying, gosh, the door has opened this much for me. I just needed to fly
Now,
open.
take that back. Do you think Dr. Oz ever thought he would have his own TV show?
No,
No.
and Dr. Phil, he
And
started
Dr.
on there
Phil.
too.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. So they were actually, from the spin-offs from her.
And look at Dr. Phil. Do you know he's like one of the co-creators of that TV show Bull?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was not his dream, but his goals and his other dreams took him into a
One
whole
door
nother
opens up, many
direction.
other doors in other different places, and you have to take that opportunity to go in. Like I had a guy contact me from he did Dark Knight Rises, and I told him I've been trying to get together a Gotham radio show, and he said that's a great idea. He said I'd love to do that, and I said, well, I got another guy that's been in Gotham. He was one of the detectives. His name's Frank Modica, great guy, SAG actor. And I said, what happens after Gotham? Where do these guys go? Where do these people go? They're done. So what we have to do is when we build the show, we have to make it so not only SAG actors, get involved and tell them what they're doing, where they're going to be, what they're going to, interviews and stuff like that. Keep ongoing interviews. Where are they going? What's happening next? And not only that, what are the spinoffs coming from Gotham? There's a lot of different spinoffs that people are talking about. So it's a big Netflix series.
Yeah.
But it entangles the whole universe. It entangles the whole world because everybody has Netflix.
I know it's crazy.
We're
where
global now. We're not national. We're global. We're not local. We're global. Everybody's global, but nobody wants to accept it.
No.
And the only people that accept it are young entrepreneurs, young business owners, and people that see what we see. Other than that, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no clue what you're talking. I used to do radio years ago. They said, not me, I'm saying other people. I used to do radio, but they contact me and say, I used to do radio years ago, but I don't think I'd be any good anymore. I said, why? What happened? What changed? Well, I had a family, I have kids, so what changed? Why couldn't you do radio again? Why couldn't you do an hour show once a month? That's not pushing you that much. And you could build up a nice following, and maybe you could start a back career for yourself.
I think I
But
believe
nobody wants to do it. Everybody's afraid. They're afraid of that little, the cost. They're afraid of the cost. They say, oh, the cost. I said, well, it cost us to broadcast it. It cost us for the materials and equipment and the place. If you want to do all that, then you can just do a podcast. But then you're just a podcast somewhere.
That's true, because I started doing that like a year or two ago, and to me it's boring. I had good things to say, but you miss the visual. It doesn't go out as far as you'd want it to go out, and all of that. I don't know. I always wonder. I'm always intrigued by people. Like, what stops you? Because really, what do you have to lose? If you're in a solid relationship, nothing's going to happen to it because you're going for a dream. If the foundation is built on cement, nothing is going to tear it down no matter what you do. And I think, whether it's a relationship with a partner or your friends or even your children, your success, meeting your goals, having your dreams come true, shouldn't affect them at all. It really, it shouldn't affect that if you have the balance. And I know my kids have been really supportive with everything I've been doing. Especially the two that are home, they see me doing the writing and the editing and the pulling my hair out of my head. Don't talk to me, I'm editing. Don't.
Relax, breathe, breathe. It all falls in place. That's what I try to tell people. When you come here, it all falls in place. And if it doesn't, and if I don't make you feel relaxed, then, there's nothing to get upset about. Really, there's not a big studio audience here, inside here, so there's nothing you're going to feel upset about, right?
They're all out there.
They're all out there. And even if you do have an audience in the future, you bring 5 or 10 people in, that's just more support for you.
Yeah.
And you even look bigger. So when a TV executive turns into it and says, wow, look at this woman. She's really got, no, and that's how it starts. Because you don't know who's watching and who's listening.
No, you never know.
We know that a lot of people are, but we don't know the demographic of who is a TV executive, who's a radio executive, who's Sony, who's, and who's these up and coming channels that they're putting on Roku and Netflix and all these other places that you don't know where you're going to be ever.
No, you never do. And I think it's worth the shot to take it.
It is.
I tell my kids, go for it. You want to do it, go for it. Life is too short not to reach out there. And like I was saying earlier, I feel bad for the people that stick themselves in that box and just feel like this is as far as I can go. And no, I can't do this. Granted, I have my days where a couple months ago, I was saying to my older brother, I said, you know what? I'm really considering giving all this up. Forget the writing, forget this. And he said, oh, good, you got to that place. That means all the good stuff's coming now because you finally said out loud. It's the saying that goes, don't quit before the miracle hits. And my entire life, I have never said that, ever said I'm giving up on anything.
Yeah,
And
that's the one thing you don't ever want to do.
no, and I mean, he brought me back to light. He's like, okay, so you got to that. You had your little moment. Now, good. That means all the doors are going to start opening because you got so frustrated with yourself. But I thought, again, it's that knowing myself, and it begins with me. Was I going to stay in that mindset of not doing this anymore? Didn't go the way I wanted. I'm not doing it. No, I didn't. It was probably a brief 45 minutes of my life.
Well, think about it. I try to analyze that. Think about it analytically by a blade of grass going through 8 foot of concrete. It just never stops, and eventually maybe it will take a while, but that piece of grass will come right through that concrete, and as flimsy as it is,
I know.
it makes it through. And you're wondering, how the heck did that happen?
It was meant to happen.
Because it was meant to happen.
It was meant to happen.
It's because grass has a memory in it, and it doesn't give up.
That's true.
Soil is nutrients, and the soil, makes the grass grow, and the grass, I believe every living thing has its own brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, the grass was here before concrete.
Yes, it was.
And right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Naturally, whatever's natural underneath is going to be eventually on top. If you look at years like in the 2030 or 2050, when a lot of these cities are going to be pretty much decimated with no population and the way things are going, and you'll see all the grass and ivy grow on these buildings, and you're like, where did that come from?
That's true.
But it does happen.
It
happens in ghost towns. It happens in rural towns. It happens in all over the world.
And see, that's your creative brain, because most people don't stop to smell the roses or to really look at the grand scheme of life going around them.
Right.
Everybody gets so caught up, like, most people would pick the blade of grass out of the cement, not thinking it's such a phenomenal, miraculous thing.
Yeah.
There are people be like, oh, pull it out. I think it's the whole mindset thing. I think it's just where everything starts. And I think, everybody, I think they fear knowing they have that capability. Some people fear because they say the mind is, I will swear to you that is what helped me through my cancer, that I put my brain in such focus mode that everything, and I will say to people, the mind really is a powerful thing.
Most people just give up. That's why they die from cancer, because they let the mind just take over and say, you know what, I can't do it. And the body hears that, and the body's like, okay, well, then I guess we can't, and then we're going to die.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I mean, people prove it all the time. I mean, we learn from our failures, and our failures actually help regain our dreams that we want.
And I don't even consider anything.
I don't even restarting point.
I don't even think it's a failure. I think, change your mindset on that word, Doc.
No, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Average people will say, oh, you just failed at that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, see, and that to me, it's like, no, it didn't go the way I had hoped it would go. I always tell people, if you tried for something, there is no way you're going to fail. You tried. Failure, no.
It's not an option.
I always say failure's not an option on this.
That's right. Yeah.
Went into this radio station, same thing. Failure is not an option. I believe so much that I can reach an audience, and even if it's one person, that I made their day better.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I talking back and forth, they hear two different people saying the same exact thing, and the mindset is a cool thing. I know I'll be going home very relaxed in my mindset from here today, thinking, now what's next? What's next? And I think it's just really, I think it's cool. And it's like I say, it's time to make a difference in this world, and we can make that difference together, whether it's through radio or social media or any of that stuff. If we stopped stop limiting ourselves. I mean, people say, well, if you could change the world, well, so can you. It starts one person at a time.
That's right.
You know, they got to believe in themselves, you know.
Read us a quote from your book, like something that sticks out in your mind that in that book, that is the one determined chapter or one determined quote that really gets me all the time.
My favorite one of the first ones I ever wrote was sometimes life takes an unexpected turn, sending us on the journey of a lifetime. We may not end up where we dreamed, but we will always end up where we belong. And that's one of my favorites, similar to a lot out there, but I had written that quote, gosh, 15 years ago when life was just, I thought nothing's going right. Nothing's going right. Everything is just, divorce is going on, and this is going on, and that's going on. But I realized this is life, and the more we accept that that's what it is, be patient till whatever, you know, is supposed to happen gets there. You know, I always say when one door closes, that's okay. Get your boots on and kick the French doors open and let everything come flooding through. You know, don't limit yourself to just one door opening. French doors, you got double doors. Let it all come flying in. Let it come flying in. And my other quote, first and foremost, no matter what your day is like or what you're going through, find your funny. There's funny to be found. I found funny in cancer every time I turned around, and I used to say to people, cancer hates anybody with a sense of humor. So I don't think I'll have it around too long because I laughed every chance I could get.
That's
you know?
good. Laughter's one of the best medicines.
Oh, absolutely. And
It is.
you can't let certain situations define you. It's not who you are. Cancer wasn't who I was. I was the girl that had it, but it wasn't me. It didn't really.
You didn't own the cancer.
No, and it didn't own me either. You know, it came for its visit and went along its merry way. And on February 21st, on my show, we'll be celebrating my 5-year cancer-free day. I'll have to bring some little party things in here. Everything pink.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Everything pink.
So where can people get your books?
The books you can find on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. I know right now they are at, and I don't know the exact address, Revolution in Freehold. It's in Cousins Plaza, owned by my friend Ruth Ann Bucheri, her son George, and Ruth Ann's husband Randy. It's a great store. They got some really cool things in there. And you know, for anybody, you want to follow me outside of the radio show, you can go on to Ann_Dennish on Instagram. Of course, I got my Ann Dennish Facebook page and AnnDennish.com website that I have. And lots of cool things planned in the future.
Jerry said she tried calling in. Jerry, you can still call in back again, my dear. I was just letting her talk. Oh, it keeps ringing. I didn't see it ring. Not ringing here. I thought that was your number. Let's see. Call back. Call back now, Jerry, because I'm looking at it, but I'm not seeing it. And when I'm talking, so call back again. You got a couple minutes yet. So if she calls, I'll get it. But she's listening to me. She says, "Hey."
Hey, Jerry.
She's a phenomenal person that went through so much too. So
She did. We've actually talked.
She's a sweetheart of a person.
We've talked through private messaging.
So the people you met from here, like you said, they're of the same
mindset.
Same mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's calling right now, so let me take that. Here we go. Okay, go ahead. There she is.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Ann, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. My throat's a little crazy, so don't mind that. But
That's okay.
yeah, I just wanted to call and show some support because I love what you're saying, and you're right. It's amazing, like when one door closes, just another one will absolutely open as long as you have faith.
It's true.
There's always a reason for everything that goes on. Like me and Doc G talk about it all the time. Like every time we meet someone new, there's going to be just another flow of all these things happening and taking place over that one person who we met through this person or that or went to this event.
I know.
It's
Isn't
just
that the
amazing,
coolest thing?
right?
I love that in life, that the right people come in and, I never really knew about this until Maureen asked me to come on, and I met Jerry and I met Dan, and I'm like, where's everybody been? But it's that having patience that everything comes to you when it's meant to you. And that's absolutely what happened for me, um, with the radio here. And I think with all of us together, we've got such great stuff that we're all talking about.
It's amazing, and it is at the right time. It will always be like that. I don't even question things anymore. I used to question everything, and I'm like, what's the
What
point?
is the point?
Because, and then I just laugh and I argue with God and I talk to God and I'm like, whatever, you're right.
That's the patience part we have to learn. As I said, some people hate that I say everything happens for a reason, but I really have learned through everything, and I'm sure you're the same,
Yeah.
all this stuff that's happened
Yeah.
in our lives, you're either going to buy that theory or you're just going to be a real pessimistic, negative person, because the
There
sooner
you
you
go.
accept that life is taking you where it needs to go. And sometimes it's a test. The guy upstairs tests us. You have patience. Can you do what you need to do? And, do it for the right reasons. I think we all do this for the right reasons. It's not for
Yeah.
fame and notoriety. It's to touch as many lives as we can, because that's the reward. Like I said to Doc, when someone says to you, I love what you said, I felt so much better that day. That's fame to me. That's success right there.
And it's amazing. It's just crazy. Like I go through life anymore, and every single day something shows up, something happens, someone says something, and I'm like, that was why. That's the reason. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Something that happened 20 years ago has just surfaced. Something that happened when I was 12 years old this week has just surfaced. And it's just amazing what God does. And, I wanted to just support you. I wanted to tell you how proud I am of you. And
Thank you so much.
I just think
Thank
what
you.
you're doing is great. And congratulations on your show. And
Thank you.
You're going to just continue to bless people.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, man. Have a great show.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, Doc G.
Take care, Jerry.
All right, honey. Bye.
Bye-bye.
She's great. Her and I talked about maybe doing something together, a little bit of something. I think it'd be great with different experiences. So it's getting close to 2:00, Doc. So, all right. Well, I wanted to thank everybody that was watching today. It means a lot to me. Thanks again to Doc G and HamiltonRadio.net for, making another dream come true, something that I love to do. And, thank you for tuning in and for listening. At the end of this show, Doc is going to play my song, The Dreamer, for you. And I just wanted to wish you lots of love, dreams come true, and remember, life is a mindset and everything begins with you. And stay tuned for Valentine's Day next week. I'm going to have a funny little show and hopefully a couple people on the panel with me. Men just don't get it, and they'd get it a lot more if they did. And on that note, have a great day, and here's The Dreamer.
There is a dreamer who lives in a world of endless possibilities, with never any boundaries. the spirit